The United States Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit is now open and in session for the ceremonial portrait presentation of Chief Judge Kimberly Moore. God save the United States and this honorable court.
Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. I am Judge Laurie, and I have been asked by the Chief Judge to preside over this special session today, as she will be preoccupied listening to all the compliments coming her way. On behalf of the court, I therefore welcome you to this special session convened for the unveiling and presentation of the portrait of our colleague, Chief Judge Kimberly Moore. It has always been a happy occasion when the court receives a portrait of one of its members, and a ceremony such as this is especially comfortable for the speakers, as I am confident the judges will not be asking any questions. And there will be no red lights. Present today as our special guests are members of Chief Judge Moore's family. Chief Judge Moore's husband, Matt Moore, her children, Billy, Bobby, Matthew, and Katie Moore, her mother, Linda Pace, her brother, Robert Pace, her nephews, Caden and Micah Pace, her mother-in-law, Jane Price, her brothers-in-law, Michael Moore and Mark Moore, and his wife, Wei Lee Moore, and her aunt, Nancy Moore, and cousin, Stacy Moore. Would you all stand, please? We welcome back. Please be seated. No need to speak. We welcome back Judge Arthur Gayaza, our former colleague. We also have Chief Judge Moore's chamber staff here as well. Her executive assistant, Jen Small, her paralegal, Amanda Abraham, and her former judicial assistant, Kate Toth. And last, but hardly least, there are 50 of Chief Judge Moore's law clerks present. Would the law clerks please stand? Thank you. You may be seated. And would the judges all look forward for a photograph? Thank you. Before we proceed to the formal program, I'd like to make a few personal remarks. Judge Moore made her mark as a circuit judge even before she became chief. If I recall correctly, she asked for an in-bank poll in a case before she had issued an opinion. As they say in sports, she came ready to play. Thereafter, she wrote fine opinions, made sound comments on circulating opinions, and overall was a fine judge. But it was as chief that she has really made her mark. While maintaining a full caseload, which is not required of chief judges, who, after all, have administrative responsibilities, she has spruced up the courthouse and associated buildings and decorated our corridors with relevant photos of people and events that occurred on these grounds years ago, including astronauts, women's suffrage advocates, and World War II scientific planners. She has initiated a learning center for young people. On matters of court governance, she has treaded a fine line between her executive responsibilities and her collegial obligations. She knows when to decide and who and when to consult first. She has set a fine model for future chiefs to follow. I first met Kimberly Moore before she was Kimberly Moore, when she sat before me as Kimberly Pace, a law clerk applicant. She was bright and sharp, on the front edge of her chair, ready to answer any hard questions that I had for her, except that I didn't ask any. She was always impressive, as I assumed she always was. But in those days, I didn't hire on the spot. I had several applicants scheduled for interviews, and her interview was at the beginning of the week. I told her that she made a very good impression, but that I would let her know after I had interviewed others who were scheduled to come in later in the week and had likely made plane reservations I didn't want them to forfeit. She then went down the hall and had an interview with Chief Judge Archer. Moments later, she called back and, through my secretary, asked whether I had made a decision. I then made the worst decision of my professional life. I said, "Not yet." Whereupon Kimberly accepted an offer from Judge Archer. Victory has 1,000 fathers, as they say, and I want to claim some role in Chief Judge Moore's arrival at the high position she now occupies. By my non-decision at that time, I set her on her future path. If I had hired her, who knows where she would have gone. I might have impressed her with the joys of corporate work and downplayed academia. Instead, she spent 2 years in the chambers of a chief judge where she might have gotten ideas how much she wanted to be chief. And when Kimberly got an idea of something she wanted to do, it was likely she was going to achieve it. And she did. So I hereby stake my claim for playing a cameo role in her great success that we recognize today. Even negatives can turn out to be positive. With those personal remarks, let us now proceed to the formal program. The first speaker in the program this afternoon is Adam Kaiser. Adam was one of Chief Judge Moore's first law clerks and served from 2008 to 2009. Mr. Kaiser.
Thank you. May it please the court. Thank you, Judge Laurie. I'm going to have to throw a little bit of an audible because I was going to introduce myself. So, as Judge Laurie said, I clerked in 2008, 2009, and those for Judge Moore were the days of yore. We only had 3 clerks instead of 4. Imagine the workload. But she was a brand new judge who didn't even have her own chambers yet. We were spread out in the Dolly Madison building, and we'd get calls from Adam Greenfield saying, "Quick, come down. President Bush's motorcade is coming through." And we'd run downstairs to watch. And times have changed. When the chief asked me to speak at her portrait hanging, I was instantly honored. And then humbled. Then a little bit scared. And maybe more than a little bit scared. Not because I'd be speaking in front of 500 of the most influential IP luminaries in the country, or because I'd be sharing space with Judges Stoll and Chen, who are going to speak later, or even because, in a way, I'd be representing the few clerks who came before me and the many who came after. Nope, wasn't even scared of the chief getting mad at me. Try not showing up for work the day before court week due to what I maintain was an honest mistake. A characterization not shared by my co-clerks, who both showed up, thanks guys, or the chief. And I'm pretty sure she's still mad at me for that one. No, what scared me and kept me up at night and occupied my OCD brain for these several months was simply this. I did not want to disappoint her. I didn't want to disappoint the one person, other than my wife, who has meant so much to me for the past 20 years of my life. So how do I not disappoint the chief? My first thoughts were terrible, bad thoughts. I thought about talking of some of her best or most impactful cases. Nope, there are at least 50 people in this room who could do a better job of that than me, not my strength. I could speak to her influence on the court. There's no way I could compete with Judge Laurie. It's not going to happen. Again, so I could try to be the voice of her clerks. It was an idea. But I can't presume to know or understand so many meaningful relationships over so many years, nor to distill them into such a short talk. Then I thought I could tell some stories. No. Despite my bravado, I really don't want to get her mad at me. Things were bleak. Then it hit me. Ask the right question. Why did she ask me to speak? And I think it goes back to the reason I was so worried about disappointing her in the first place, and my penchant, which I think is a shared trait, of saying what is on my mind without varnish. I can tell you truthfully how I see the chief and what she has meant to me. So here goes. The easy stuff first. She was far and away the best boss I've ever had. She wasn't even close to the easiest boss, but she was the best. I knew from day one that her goals were to get to the right answer and to make her clerks better lawyers. I can't overstate how much I appreciate all of the time and the effort she put into accomplishing these goals. I'm even more appreciative now that I have a family of my own and I feel the pressures and I feel the pulls. And I realize that every minute she spent making me better was a minute away from Billy, Bobby, Matthew, and Katie. They're clearly her first priority. Don't worry, Matt. I'm sure you are a solid second place. You're good. This didn't end with my clerkship. She has been the best mentor I could have asked for over the last 15 years. Someone I can always turn to for work or life advice, or who might turn to me when she thinks I need career or life advice. I know that whatever I need, she will always be on my team. She will always be there for me. Unless she has to choose between me and my wife, and Dawn's going to win that one 10 out of 10. On a more personal note, my wife and I chose to have the chief perform our wedding. It was her first, and ours as well. So she was even so kind as to give me the first crack at the ceremony language, and I went to other judges and got them in and did my marks up and handed it to her. And she then very kindly told me it was a nice effort and marked it up worse than any brief I had ever given her. I have to admit at this point, as with the briefs, her version was better. It was just better. She's the godmother to my 3 girls. She's a friend I can always count on. She also, through some lucky twist of fate, gave me 2 of the very, very best friends and brothers I could ever ask for, and my co-clerks, Adam Greenfield and Judge John Murphy. I talk to them on an almost daily basis, and my life would be less without them. And she gave us that. She showed us what a team could do when everyone's pulling hard for the same result. For all these things, I will be forever grateful, and I will always be on her team. I could go on for much longer than the time allotted in detailing what the chief has meant to me, but I would be remiss not to share a few things I've learned about her on the way. Her family comes first, and she expects yours to come first for you. She is fiercely protective of her loved ones. She's a mother to all. She doesn't hide the ball. Listen to her. Believe what she's telling you. Her faith is her bedrock, but she doesn't insist that you share it. She does not suffer fools well. Bring your A game, always. She's wicked smart. If you don't understand what she's saying, trust me, it's not her. She's always willing to listen and to change her mind. It's more important to her to get to the right result than to be the one who was right. As a side note, she's probably the one who was right. She's one of the best friends you could ever ask for. Lesser known, she makes the best candied bacon ever. If you're ever so lucky to get the opportunity to try it. But finally, a note of caution. Guard your blackberries. Constant vigilance. Thank you all for listening, and thank you to the Chief for everything. I'm so honored to be part of this special occasion and to share it with you, Max, and the kids. You mean so much to me and so much to so many others. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser. Our next speaker is Claire Fondakowski, who served as a law clerk to Chief Judge Moore from 2016 to 2017. Ms. Fondakowski.
Thank you, Judge Laurie. May it please the court. I'm incredibly honored to be here today and share a little bit about what makes Chief Judge Moore so special. As a clerk, I worked closely with Chief Judge Moore for 20 months. During that time, I learned a lot about how Chief functions as a judge and who she is as a person. I learned that when Chief asks tough questions from the bench, which is often, it's because she genuinely cares about the answer. No matter the case before her, Chief is keen on getting it right. She does her homework and ensures she has a deep understanding of every case before she reaches a decision. I also learned that as committed as Chief is to the court, she always manages to prioritize her family. Throughout my clerkship, I saw Chief seamlessly shift between deciding important cases and handling other important matters in her life, like helping her kids with their math homework, cheering her kids on at lacrosse games, or making sure that her beef stew would be ready for her family for dinner. As a clerk, I had many opportunities to see Chief in her role as a mom, whether from visits at the court or on very special trips to the beach with her daughter Katie. It was always clear that Chief's 4 children are at the forefront of her mind, and I knew early on that Chief is the kind of mother I wanted to emulate. Despite everything on her plate, I learned that Chief is selflessly dedicated to supporting her clerks. During my clerkship, Chief consistently set aside time to meet with each of us. She mentored us to become better writers and better advocates. She also made it a point to get to know us personally, including by eating lunch with us every day. It's no surprise then that just 4 months after I started my clerkship, Chief officiated at my wedding and delivered the sort of kind and thoughtful remarks you would expect from a lifelong friend. It's been 8 years since I joined the Moore Clerk family. Yet throughout this time, Chief has been there for me personally and professionally. When I became a mom, Chief was one of the first people to visit and hold my baby, and she was the first to drop off food. She's given me invaluable advice over the years, ranging from my career path as a patent litigator to how to get my kids to sleep. And I'm just one of over 50 clerks. Chief has performed 8 other marriage ceremonies and is a godparent to even more clerk babies. Chief has been there for all of her clerks through career changes, parenthood, and loss. And she's done all of this while taking on the title of Chief, raising her 4 children who are somehow not so little anymore, and spearheading important initiatives like the court's new learning center. This is who Chief is. Chief has an uncanny ability to do it all and do it all extremely well. She is bright, hardworking, loving, and thoughtful. She is also very funny. I like to think how, in addition to her many accomplishments and contributions to the court, her legacy will also include things like encouraging all of the judges to wear costumes on Halloween, keeping a 6-foot bear in her chambers, and enlightening us all about space monkeys that once occupied Dolly Madison. Chief, we are so lucky to have you. It is my privilege to call you a mentor, a a friend, and my judge. Thank you and congratulations on this huge milestone.
Thank you, Ms. Fundakowski. It is now my pleasure to introduce our colleague, Judge Kara Stool.
I'm right here. I was eager. May it please the court. I have known Chief Judge Moore as a best friend, a colleague, and our chief. And I can honestly say that she is one of the most determined, thorough, and thoughtful people I've ever met. She's also hilarious, fun, and brilliant, both inside and out. We became friends over 17 years ago when her youngest son, Matthew, and my oldest daughter, Jackie, were in the same preschool class. She quickly became one of my best mom friends. We chaperoned field trips together, attended kids' birthday parties together, and suffered through a few too many recorder concerts together. Any of you parents probably know that nobody can play a recorder well, let alone a second grader. We also exercised together. For years, we attended an early morning boot camp 2 or 3 days a week. I'd pick her up at 5:45 a.m., and on most days, knowing that she was waiting for me was the only thing that kept me from sleeping right through boot camp. We learned a lot about each other. For example, I learned that Chief Judge Moore has tiny feet that don't necessarily fit her body and leave her unbalanced. And she learned that I am not a great driver, especially at 5:45 a.m. without my morning coffee. Thank you, Chief Judge Moore, for the countless times you put your life at risk just so you could spend time with me. I learned early in our friendship that Chief Judge Moore is a force of nature. If I were stranded on a deserted island, I would want to be stranded with her. Because I know, come heck or high water, she'd get us off that island because she's a problem solver. One morning, while we were doing push-ups at 6 a.m., I let her know I was struggling. I remember we had 3 kids under the age of 7, and I was a partner focusing on litigation at a law firm, and our long-term nanny had just given us her 1-week notice. I remember telling my friend that I felt like I was hanging on the edge of a cliff by my fingertips. Before noon that day, Chief Judge Moore rescued me from that cliff, letting me know that she'd found a nanny for us. And she has saved me countless times since then. That is the kind of friend she is. One who will listen to your problems, offer sage advice, and help you find solutions. Judge Moore was the youngest judge ever appointed to the federal circuit. She was a mother of 3 with a 4th child, Katie, on the way. She quickly proved that despite her young age, she was more than capable of serving. Within a few years of her appointment, I regularly heard Don Dunner, who was one of the most great appellate advocates at the time, telling his appellate clients that Chief Judge Moore was hands down the best questioner on the court. In a day and time when we sometimes question whether it's possible for a woman to have it all, Chief Judge Moore stands as a shining example. I believe that her ability to excel both as a judge and a wife and a mother originates from her faith and unwavering moral compass. Many of us have heard her say that her priorities in life are first God, followed by her husband, Matt, followed by her 4 children, her extended family, and the court and her court family. She doesn't just talk this talk, she walks this walk. As we have heard, Chief Judge Moore has been both a teacher and a mentor to many here today. And over the past 9 years that I've worked with her on the court, I've seen how she takes her law clerks under her wing, teaches them, sets high but reasonable expectations for them, and makes them part of her court family. She did the same thing for me when I joined the court, allowing me to learn from her experiences so I could more efficiently and effectively embrace my role as a judge. Chief Judge Moore is also immensely fun. She brought back Judge Helen Neese's tradition of celebrating Halloween at the federal circuit and then grew that celebration beyond anybody's expectations. This past Halloween, people from nearly every chambers and court office, from the circuit executive to the clerk's office to the library, dressed up in costume and competed for the coveted Best Costume Award. For many of us, that Halloween celebration at the Federal Circuit is a cherished event that brings the court together, and it wouldn't exist if not for Judge Moore. And as the costume competition has increased, so she has been a good sport, maintaining an attitude that's so good, despite the fact that my chambers has won the competition for the last 3 years. Chief Judge Moore cares deeply about our court and court staff, and she brings out the best in many of us. Whether in her role as chair of the IT committee or her role as chief judge, she has devoted her time, enthusiasm, and energy to making our courthouse the best it can be. Her joy, and possibly her nerdiness, is on full display at our weekly judges' lunches as she talks about working with our circuit librarian, Jessica, to uncover and display the rich history of our courthouse, working with ASO to maneuver through bureaucracy and beautify our historic houses on a budget, and creating and developing plans to open a learning center in our courthouse to serve DC public school students. Her enthusiasm for everything about her court is perhaps best exemplified by her cult-like devotion to 2 female space monkeys, Baker and Abel, who survived a trip to space and held a press conference in our court's historic houses in 1959. Since learning of that history, Judge Moore has dressed up as a space monkey, has hung photos of space monkeys in her office, and has secured a space rock from NASA to accompany our court's new space monkey exhibit. Chief Judge Moore, I want to thank you for your friendship, your outstanding service to our court, and for the countless contributions you have made in the nearly 2 decades of service. With the dedication of your portrait today, I know that you will continue to inspire generations of lawyers, just as you have inspired me and so many here today.
Thank you, Judge Stoll. It is now my pleasure to introduce our colleague, Judge Raymond Chin.
Okay. Thank you, Judge Laurie, Chief Judge Moore, my dear colleagues, may it please the court. It's an important day for the chief and her family, and it's also an important day for the court, and I'm grateful to speak at this event. I've been given 3 instructions for today. Number 1, stay under 7 minutes. Number 2, to be funny. And number 3, to not make this about myself. And frankly, I don't find these demands to be reasonable. How can you in 7 minutes describe a relationship that has spanned 28 years? And funny how? Like I'm a clown? I'm here to amuse you? Like I'm some kind of court jester or something? And finally, of course, I can't not make this about myself. If I'm going to talk about the chief, I have to talk about my impressions and how she makes me feel. So here we go, in roughly 7 minutes or less. I start from the beginning. In the spring of 1996, I joined the court as a staff attorney in what is now known as the General Counsel's Office. Chief Judge Moore was a clerk to then Chief Judge Glenn Archer. We were both 27 years old. You can learn a lot about someone's character by playing sports with them. And my first real exposure to the chief's personality occurred in the first game of the court softball team's 1996 season. I was playing third base, and the chief was standing on the pitcher's mound, getting ready to throw the first pitch. These games are not too serious, and pitchers, of course, pitch the ball underhanded, like this, like you're bowling or something, but not Chief Judge Moore. To my great surprise, she started pitching the ball like this, doing the backspin motion. And the batter on the other team immediately called out, "Hey, pitch the ball normally." But Kimberly again threw another backspin pitch like this. And the batter then yelled, "You can't pitch the ball like that. Pitch it like you're supposed to." And Kimberly shot back, "This is the only way I know how to pitch. So this is all you're going to get." Now the whole opposing team is yelling at Kimberly because They know that her alleged pitching limitations couldn't possibly be true, and the batter is pointing his metal bat at her, yelling, "I'm not going to swing until you pitch normal." But Kimberly just shakes him off and keeps throwing her backspin pitches, one after another after the other, with a very determined look on her face. Both sides are yelling at each other, and I'm standing at third base thinking, who is this Kimberly Pace? And I can't believe I might have to get into a brawl with a bunch of angry middle-aged men because this Kimberly Pace person refuses to pitch the softball like a normal human being. Finally, the batter gives up, swings at one of Kimberly's diabolical backspin pitches, and we play the game without incident. I had quite a few first impressions about Kimberly Pace that day. Let's focus on the good ones. Among them, she's tough, brave, relentless, has a backbone made of steel, won't back down, and fights for what she believes in, no matter how minor the stakes might be or how risky to my physical safety. As alarmed as I was at the time by this behavior, I learned that these traits are strengths that I see in her today. Another softball story. The following softball season, in 1997, we had a really good team. In the middle of the season, Chief Judge Moore brought an outsider to play on our team, her new boyfriend, Matt Moore. I remember him sitting on the ground, lacing up his cleats, and thinking to myself, why is Kimberly foisting onto us this interloper? But once we started playing, I realized how dominant Matt was on both offense and defense, and he quickly won over the team with his charm and enthusiasm. After a couple games, I started to believe Kimberly's greatest asset was perhaps Matt Moore. In truth, though, it was easy to tell back then that Kimberly was a star in the making. She had the brain power, the focus, the energy, the drive, the self-confidence, the savvy, and the natural interest in the law. I was always impressed with her on-the-fly, hyper-articulate discussions of different areas of the law. It was a bit intimidating, actually. And sure enough, after her clerkship, she quickly established herself in academia with her patent law scholarship. I really looked up to her for being so bold to take the path less traveled and make a name for herself as a law professor. And then I was so proud of her in 2006 when she was nominated to the court. To me, she represented the very best of our generation, and I was excited and happy for her, and to see that one of us made it. I soon learned, however, that our good friendship did not mean she would take it easy on me during oral arguments. For those of you who have appeared before her in court, I have walked in your shoes, and I feel your pain. I'll never forget one particular argument in front of Chief Judge Moore, and the only word to describe that experience is traumatizing. What drives the chief's judicial demeanor in the courtroom? What I've consistently seen from the chief, both before and after I joined the court, is a judge who clearly cares very deeply about the cases and is extremely prepared for every argument. She always has a total command of the record, the relevant law, the underlying technology, and approaches her work with great integrity. And she fully expects the advocates to be right there with her, operating at her level and meeting her high standards in an honest and forthright way. So in all those ways, you as an advocate need to be up here, not here, here. She also believes in the importance of transparency. She's going to let you know what she thinks, which can sometimes be a real gift for the advocate, other times not so much. I wish I had more time, but I'm at the point where I need to try to sum up Chief Judge Moore as a judge and a person. I don't have a handy, profound quote from a poet or philosopher, because I'm no scholar or Renaissance man. But I have watched a tremendous amount of television. And Chief Judge Moore reminds me of a show from about 15 years ago called Friday Night Lights. It was a heartfelt show about a Texas high school football team. And the football coach had a slogan for the team: clear eyes, full heart, can't lose. Clear eyes, full heart, can't lose. Nobody I know embodies those 6 words better than our chief judge. She's a clear thinker. She stays focused on what matters, regardless of the circumstances. She is so brave and willing to tackle difficult situations head-on and resolve conflicts. She is optimistic and joyful, and she fully commits herself to everything she does, whether for her family, her work, her friends, her faith. She just juggles so much in her life. I don't know how she does it. She inspires me to do better in many different ways. Finally, I want to make clear that "can't lose" from the slogan, "Clear eyes, full heart, can't lose," doesn't mean coming out victorious in every battle. It means something deeper. It means if you've given everything you have to an endeavor in an honest and open and fearless way, then you've already succeeded. And by that measure and others, our chief judge has seen a lot of success. She's never given anything less to the court than clear eyes and a full heart. I know that's what I'll think about whenever I look at her portrait. Chief, thank you for your service to this court and to the people of this court. You've earned this day and your portrait. Congratulations, Chief Judge Kimberly Pache Moore.
Thank you, Judge Chen. It is now my pleasure to introduce our colleague, Judge Sharon Prost.
Wow, that's a tough act to follow. Nobody ever suggested that I be funny because they knew that would never happen. And you know, when I worked at the Senate Judiciary Committee, we used to say at hearings, everything's been said, but not everyone has said it. So here I am, is one of the main I'm honored to be here this afternoon. I suspect that I was chosen to speak, or at least speak towards the end, because I'm pretty well known for my brevity. Well, I think the judge may have misjudged. I've got a lot to say. First, there is Kimberly's husband, Matt Moore. It's an uncommon bond. As some of you know, there's a photo in her office that she has long featured prominently. When I first came into her new chambers and noticed it, she commented it was her favorite and most special. It's the photo of her in her robe, hand on Bible, taking her oath, with Matt prominently holding the Bible. It being her favorite, though, she told me, beaming, had nothing to do with her becoming a judge. It was Matt's face and his eyes looking at her, the look of love and pride that she called out to me. Now, I barely knew Matt and Kimberly at the time, and it spoke volumes about them. But to be honest, in retrospect, after now knowing them for almost 2 decades, I've seen that look hundreds of times when they're together. When she tells a story about one of the kids, or when she just walks into the room. And it's a look that goes both ways. No one who knows them needs that photo to see and feel the love and admiration and devotion that passes between them all the time. It is that devotion I really wanted to share with my 2 sons, an example of the meaning of a true and lasting marriage that I wished for them. And I never lost sight of that on the many trips we took with Matt and Kimberly around the world, where my sons bore witness to just how crazy in love, respectful, protective, and kind these 2 people were to each other. I prayed for something just like that in my sons' futures. But their circle of love and family has obviously become more complete over the years, which brings me to Kimberly the mother. There's a saying by someone that God can't be everywhere all the time, so he created mothers. Well, I'm not quite sure how many mothers really fit the bill, including me, but we all know Kimberly is at the top of that list. And most importantly, I know that Billy, Bobby, Matthew, and Katie know that as well. What other kids have their summer camps and trips planned every year by January? Not mine. Always there for each of you, everywhere, all the time. I know you know that. But you must also have noticed that while you and Matt and the kids are undoubtedly the most important part of her life, she's got a few things going on as well. Thank you for sharing her with us. Because Kimberly isn't just a special mom, she's just special, sui generis. Every once in a while, one comes across a person agile, skilled, and vigorous enough to step out to meet the moment. And I've seen our chief do that repeatedly in times of challenge. The girl from Baltimore has inspiring and infectious common sense, sharpened by the circumstances of her youth that would not have made her the odds-on favorite likely to become chief judge of an appellate court. But then and now and always, through the sheer force of will, she transforms her challenges and our challenges into triumphs. We've all seen it, in particular with Kimberly as chief. I've got to say, in contrast to my hands-off style as chief, she's taking the chief's world by storm. And not to tell stories out of turn, but there are certainly some folks in GSA, the Marshal Service, and the AO and others that have felt her presence. She is an unabashed and fearless champion for our court and its staff. Recently, a friend and colleague of ours observed to me that one of the most special things about her is that Kimberly has no guile. She is nothing if not direct and to the point. Let's just say she doesn't hide the ball, she throws it. What you see is what you get, and it's out in the open. Feedback that one can hopefully learn from, and then everyone is able to move on. Indeed, she doesn't just move on, she moves forward. No grudges, only growth. The certitude of her views, and particularly the certitude of the tone in which she presents those views, is sometimes reassuring, if you think she's right, but often a bit intimidating. In my early discussions with her about cases, I sheepishly expressed a contrary view, but did so having concluded from the certitude of her tone that her mind was made up. Invariably, however, I would later get a call. She thought about everything I'd expressed, sometimes agreeing, sometimes articulating a thoughtful explanation for not agreeing. And so I learned she was in fact a true listener. Of course, the chief and I have been on the same side of many appeals and on different sides on occasion. No big surprise that being on the same side is a lot more fun. We make a great team. But even on opposite sides, she inspires me to be a smarter and wiser judge. One more thing. And perhaps most important, it became apparent to me early on that one of the things that differentiates Kimberly from so many others is that she's driven in all deeds and decisions by a moral compass. Born and nourished by her faith in God, her deep love of family, and her abiding love of country. It makes her unique. What it means is that she's driven and guided in all that she does, matters large and small and everything in between, by an unflinching need to do what's good and what's right. Driven by the need to help those who are hurting, to teach those who want to learn, and to offer loving kindness to those in need. Available always to make those around her feel supported and seen. It takes a great deal of strength and courage to open yourself up to those challenges, but she does, with her family first and always, with her colleagues and her friends, and with all in her orbit. I've seen it, we've seen it every day, and for so many, a list that might begin with me and all of her former clerks. Because of her, our dreams are bigger, our achievements are more meaningful, our hearts are fuller, and our lives are richer. Kimberly, it's truly been one of the great blessings of my life to have been included in your family. Matt, Bill, Billy, Bobby, Matthew, and Katie. I was blessed with two wonderful sons, but Kimberly is the daughter I always wished I'd had. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Prost. I now recognize Chief Judge Moore's children, Billy, Bobby, Matthew, and Katie Moore.
You can all go up together.
Hi, I'm Katie. It's amazing to see everyone here to support and honor my mom. I wanted to take some time to say a few words about my mom tonight. I'm so lucky to have the mother that I do, but she isn't just my mother, she's one of my best friends too. Most people don't have as close of a relationship with their mom as I do. I pretty much am a little Chief Judge Kimberly, and for that I'm truly thankful. I'm proud to say that my mom is my best friend in the entire world. We share many unique personal things, like our little chalkboard that for legal reasons a hotel gifted it to us in Miami. And since our busy schedules often don't overlap, we will leave it for each other with little cute notes and messages which have deepened our relationship and brought us closer through the busy weeks. We have even made songs for each other, like Katie Loves Mommy and Mommy Loves Katie. They're the same song, we just switched the names, but special nonetheless. And she is a fantastic mother figure. She constantly inspires me and my siblings with her unwavering determination and unmatched work ethic. She has persevered through adversity throughout her whole life to become a leader in a male-dominated field, which is truly amazing. My ultimate inspiration comes from my mother, Kimberly Moore, the dazzling woman from whom I received my life, humor, and of course my looks, sorry to add. She has always been my biggest cheerleader, encouraging me to achieve my dreams no matter what stands in the way. Growing up, she filled our house with laughter, games, sarcasm, fun, music, and love. She has guided me and all my siblings throughout our whole life, which although it seems very easy, as we are quite perfect, she deserves a lot of credit. Even when we make mistakes, she is there for us, loving us and helping us. This incredible woman has shaped me and my sibling and I's lives in ways words can never fully express. My mom is my rock, compass, and a constant source of joy. As the Chief Judge of the Federal Circuit, she inspires me greatly, but her unwavering love and guidance have made her influential in my life. I cannot imagine having anyone else as my mother. Thank you so much for everything. I love you.
I love you, Katie.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Moore. I'd like to thank you all for coming here to celebrate this special occasion. And before this speech, I was pretty nervous, but what I realized is it wasn't the nerves that I'd be speaking in front of all these people, but the excitement I have to be able to talk about my mom today. My mom is my hero. She was the first member of her family to go to college. She graduated from MIT with a degree in electrical engineering. She became one of the most influential law professors in the country, co-authoring a legal casebook. It was at this time that she was appointed to the Federal Circuit at the age of 37. She was so young, she even became the first circuit court judge to give birth. And now, 18 years later, she's chief judge. More impressively, she did this all as her second job, while raising kids full-time. Family has always come first to her. And she is always showing us how much she loves us, whether it is caring for us when we're sick, cooking amazing family dinners, or driving 4 kids with packed schedules all around the DMV. She is always there for us. My mom has even picked out a special children's book for each of us, which she writes in at different times in our lives. The book she picked out for me is Wherever You Go, My Love Will Find You. In the cover of this book, she writes to me about our relationship, how much she loves me, and the potential she sees in me. Even as an adult, I cherish this book and still read it from time to time. As I grew older, I realized how special my bond was with my mom, which is why I wrote my college essay about our relationship and how she has formed me into the person I am today. My mom has been my role model for my whole life. With her character, morals, and work ethic, she inspires me to be the best version of myself. Her character is truly unique. This might shock you all. As kids, we were not perfect, but our mom never dwelled on our mistakes. Her ability to be the bigger person, forgive and forget, and embrace her kids with open arms is special. This is why she's been the person I turn to whenever times are tough. I talk to her about everything. I will never forget the time she gave me full immunity to tell her any stories I otherwise wouldn't. And that conversation will stay between us. My mom is also incredibly fun. We play all kinds of games. For example, in car rides, we play the letter game or try to see who can name more animals that start with the letter B. And of course, board games at home always involve a lot of playful banter. But when we were little, she even learned to play games on her phone with us. Now that we're older, she's picked up golf to spend more time with us too. And I don't know if anyone here has tested her football knowledge, but she's actually a 4-time house champion of our family's fantasy football league. One of my favorite fun memories is after lacrosse tournaments when I was younger. While everyone else would just sit in the hotel during the downtime with nothing to do, me and my mom would find the nearest Dave & Buster's arcade. We would play all the games together, racing cars, playing basketball, testing our luck on the claw machines, and just laughing the whole time. My mom's energy and joy are infectious. She is able to brighten my day with just her presence. My mom is truly one of a kind. She is strong, selfless, fun, caring, and so much more. She is amazing in every way. There really is no one like her, and I wouldn't trade her for the world. I love being able to celebrate her and her accomplishments here today. I love you, Mom, and wherever you go, my love will find you.
Okay, starting off, I do things on a whim, just me personally. So my mom didn't even know I was going to be up here today because I was telling her I was too stressed to do this. So I'm obviously not as prepared as my siblings. This also pisses my mom off in everyday life of things I do. This is not a one-time thing. But my mom has helped me through a lot of my life and has actively shielded us from a lot that could have gone wrong. For example, the only problem I can think of as a child in my entire life before high school was a story that my mom told me, which was I was watching Dora one day, and it was something about eggs hatching. And so my mom walked out of the room for one moment and came back to hearing crashing of me throwing eggs on the floor saying, "Get free, chickens." That's the biggest problem I can think of with my mom I've ever had. So my mom has been there for me my entire life, obviously. Like, there's nothing else I can really say to that. But she has been a rock in my life, and she has done absolutely her best and gone beyond anything most parents tend to do. No offense. You're just not as good. Sorry. But she has been a rock in my life who has been holding me through the storm of just life. And I know it's hard to do that considering it's hard being this tall. I'm sorry. You're all not quite as big as me. But even then, I'm not as big as my mom. She has impacted so many people in her life that rely on her, that need her in their lives. And she will continue to impact more throughout her life. As far as I know, she has told me that she does not plan to stop working. So you guys got that going for you. So you're going to have more after. But she has been actively always there for me. There's no other way to say this because it's basically the same thing everybody's been saying. But in the general sense of the word, she is just there for you when you need it. Nobody has ever really done anything for me like my mom has. You've been close, Dad. Not there. But it's just, I don't know really what else to say because apparently we're all supposed to keep it under 7 minutes. Is it like, is it like a group thing or is it just individual? Okay, yeah. But
wow. Hello, thank you all for coming today. I first want to thank the wonderful speakers we've had today, from Adam and Claire to Judge Stoll, Chen, and Prost, and my 3 younger siblings. Great job. All of you did fantastic. Everyone here is amongst my mom's closest friends and family, and it means the world to us that you all could come from all across the United States and share this moment with us. Judge Lori introduced me. I'm Billy Moore. I'm the oldest of the Moore children. Where do I begin? With my mom. She's made many unbelievable accomplishments and exceeded expectations at every turn. Starting with MIT. Her high school counselor told her it was a mistake and a waste of money to send in an application. And sure enough, she defied the odds, even majoring in engineering at a time when women rarely became engineers. She didn't stop there. Her careers as a lawyer and law professor were flourishing when out of nowhere, she received an interview to become an appellate court judge on the federal circuit. Her colleagues and friends told her that this was more of a first-round interview, a look towards a future appointment, and that she was too young and needed more experience. And sure enough, as she'd done in every aspect of her life, she impressed and exceeded expectations, becoming the youngest female appellate court judge in history. She continued breaking records, becoming the first appellate court judge to ever get pregnant. The court didn't know how to handle maternity leave, and so they had to find something comparable. And so given this similar leave time, they decided Katie, in this pregnancy, was roughly a hip replacement. Even with her dedication to her profession, she always focused on making the workplace a fun environment for her children. Some of the most memorable moments of my childhood are going to Bertucci's with my mom, or even running around the office playing Risk with the law clerks. All of these accomplishments are impressive, but none of them equate to what she has done as a mother. Her job as a mom has not been easy. Having 5 kids, myself, Bobby, Matthew, Katie, and my dad, is hard. But she is always selfless and puts herself behind every one of us. Perfect example of this is when I was 11. I went to sleepaway basketball camp. My dad had driven me up. He then had to fly to California for work. And on the second day of the camp, I broke my collarbone. It was a pretty bad break, and I was taken right to the hospital. And all that I was thinking about was I wanted to have my mom by my side. And we called her office, and she had court that day. So we passed the message along. Wasn't sure what my expectations were. As soon as this message reached her, she immediately paused court, got in her car, and was on the way. For that 3-hour drive, she spent the entirety of the car ride on the phone with the doctors and myself calming me down. As soon as she arrived, the pain subsided, and I was immediately better. This is the impact she has had on me and my other siblings. Whether it is school, a relationship, or if we're just in a rut, she's always there for us. Everyone here in the audience knows my mom pretty well. And if I asked you to describe her, one of the first characteristics that would come to the forefront of your mind is openness. She's an open book, and she will talk to you about everything, from the good to the bad. One of the main reasons we're so close is not her openness, but mine. I've inherited that trait from her, and I share everything with her, including a special one-on-one trip to Universal Studios, where we rented my favorite car, a Mustang convertible, and we drove up Pacific Coast Highway as I made hand gestures to the passing trucks to blow their horns. We were laughing the entire time. I've developed a unique relationship with my mom. She's my role model. I look up to her every day in everything that I do. Her guidance and support mean everything to me. She's able to balance strength and empathy in perfect unison. I don't know where I'd be without you. When I started thinking about how I was going to write this speech, it made me think how truly special this relationship with my mom is. And it made me think, what is a best friend? So I looked up a definition, and this is one I found particularly interesting. Someone who is there for you, and someone who has seen you at your best and worst, and who will always be there for you whenever you need them. This will make you think, who is your best friend? Mom, we've had a lot of fun times. You've seen me at my highs and lows, and you've stuck by my side every step of the way. You are known as many things, Mom, Chief, or even the Honorable, but I'm happy to call you my best friend. Congratulations on defying the odds and earning the opportunity to have your portrait hung in these halls. But more importantly, the life-changing impact you've had on your colleagues, friends, and family. I love you so much.
I love you.
I forgot to end it with I love you too, so.
Thank you, Billy, Bobby, Matthew, and Katie. We will now hear from the President of the Federal Circuit Bar Association, Patrick Keene.
Thank you, Judge Laurie, and may it please the court. Good afternoon, Chief Judge Moore, Matt, Billy, Bobby, Matthew, Katie, all the distinguished members of our court, and all of our distinguished guests here today. As Judge Laurie mentioned, I'm the president of the Federal Circuit Bar Association, and I have the distinct honor, after all those fantastic presentations that you called out, Billy, of overseeing the presentation of why we're all here, the portrait of Chief Judge Moore. I have a great love of art, and that love comes actually from my family, from my daughter in particular, my daughter Lindsay, who many of you know. And I've come to really love and enjoy paintings, particularly portraits, because they blend culture and historical significance with aesthetics, especially when they're delivered with emotional depth and inspiration. That's an artist's secret sauce. And it's also the definition of great art. Art that's created by human hand and divinely inspired. Today is a very significant cultural and historic event to honor Chief Judge Moore, with a portrait that is certain to be not only aesthetic, but culturally and historically significant, captured with emotional depth and inspiration of a great artist. Chief Judge Moore is a very special person to her family, clearly, to her colleagues, to all of you, it's why you're here, and certainly to me. We know that Chief Judge Moore is a student of culture, history, and aesthetics. You've heard it all through the talks today. We all delight in hearing her excitement when she talks about the Learning Center, or the art that's been added to the Dolly Madison House on a shoestring budget, which in and of itself is an art. One of my greatest, if not my greatest, insights from my role as the Federal Circuit Bar President has been the opportunity to work with you. A person I've known for many years, but now over this past time as the President of the Federal Circuit, with a renewed awareness of her depth of dedication, faith, candor, and also her appreciation of culture, history, and aesthetics. So as regards the content of this portrait that we're about to unveil, I'm certain that the artist received abundant material to draw upon for the portrait. And knowing Chief Judge Moore's attention to detail, I'm certain that it captures very much of what is important to her. So before we unveil this portrait, let me just very, very briefly tell you about the artist. The artist is John Friedman, a background in philosophy and a Master of Fine Arts, who has his works represented in portraits throughout the Federal Circuit. And in fact, portraits of Judge Clevenger, Judge Shaw, and Judge Prost. I'll leave it to you to compare all the portraits, the 4 portraits, after this event today. But in wrapping up, before we unveil the portrait, I want to thank Chief Judge Moore for including me and the Federal Circuit Bar, Governor Mayon, our circuit executive, and all of our executive committee members in this very special event. So now we're going to move to the unveiling of the portrait, and I turn it back to you, Judge Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Keene. On behalf of my colleagues, I extend our sincere appreciation to you, Judge Moore's law clerks, to the members of the Bar Association, and to the artist, John Friedman. On behalf of the court, I am pleased to accept this portrait of our esteemed colleague, Kimberly A. Moore. And now the moment that we've been waiting for. Will Justin Bova and Melissa Brand please come forward and unveil the portrait? At this time, I would like to introduce Father Christopher Pollard, pastor at St. John the Beloved Roman Catholic Church, to bless this portrait.
Thank you, Judge Laurie. May it please the court. Congratulations, Chief, for bringing us all together. Congratulations to Billy and Bobby and Matthew and Katie and Matt for getting in the portrait. It's a privilege, but it's also a duty that I have frequently to appeal to a higher authority. And I don't mean whoever's lurking behind those window shades above your heads. So let us pray. Almighty God, whom we invoke, wherever and whenever we seek to be free from all that is evil and sad and divisive, when we desire to be in the presence of all that is good and true and beautiful. O Creator of nature, who were invoked by those who left their personal marks on the Declaration of Independence and on human history. O Heavenly Father, who were invoked when Kimberly became your beloved daughter, when she joined with Matt in holy matrimony, when she received with great joy Billy and Bobby and Matthew and Katie as the manifestation of your blessing for life. We beg you to continue to bring light and joy and truth and wisdom, prudence and courage, temperance and love into the world through all of your servants and through all of us. May this depiction of Judge Kimberly Moore and her family and the Washington Monument and the Jefferson Memorial and the cherry blossoms at our favorite time of year continue to remind us of your abiding love and presence, your providence even in times of trouble, of all the reasons why we have to hope every season and every year, even though we know history is always happening, but the present moment only happens once. And we ask you for a special blessing that you might permit all of us to be so moved that all the good things and wonderful things and grateful things that we have to say, not only to the Chief, but to everyone in our lives, that it happens now and not too late. Amen.
Thank you, Father Pollard. We will now hear from Chief Judge Moore.
May it please the court. I knew my portrait would be different from most. It would not be a serious judge staring across the bench, leering towards an advocate. It needed to be authentic. It needed to reflect who I am and what matters to me. And this one does. From nature's splash of pink, after all, I am a girl judge, to my long hair, to my dangly earrings, to my wedding band prominently displayed, and the cross around my neck, to the family where my heart resides. The portrait is busy because I'm busy, but most importantly, it reflects the joy I feel at having been given the chance to be a judge, to decide important cases, to be part of your lives, and to get to work with the most amazing people, to be part of this court family. I hope when you look at my portrait, you'll see the pure joy and gratitude for these gifts, which I do not take for granted. I will continue to strive every day to be worthy of the trust placed in me. I have so many people to thank. Let me start with our court staff. Jarrett, Jessica, Keisha, Kevin, Jeff, Francis, Adele, and Haley. Please stand up. Over the last 3 years as chief, I've come to rely so heavily on each of you to appreciate that our staff is the backbone of this institution. I thank each of you and the dedicated team of professionals you work with on behalf of our whole court. Deborah Myron and Patrick Keene and the entire FCBA, thank you for your constant and unwavering support of our court. Father Pollard, our family spiritual advisor, thank you for blessing my portrait. Judge Laurie, you're my judicial hero. You're someone whose style and demeanor I most respect and will always try to emulate. Thank you for presiding today and for being such an excellent role model for all the rest of us. To my colleagues on the bench, I cherish our friendships and I value our collaboration. Thank you for standing beside me every day, for your patience, your kindness, and your wisdom. Kara, Ray, Richard, and Sharon, you each know how much you mean to me. You're among my best friends. You're not just my colleagues. And you don't stand beside me most of the time. You hold me up. My chamber staff, there's the family you're born into and the family you choose. We chose each other. If you learned anything from your time with me, I hope it's that it's the people that matters. What an incredible journey. When our incredible journey is all over, the most important thing that should always mean the most is the lives you've touched. And you each touched my life. I've learned far more from you than you have from me. When I wrote this speech, I only read it to one person in advance, and that was Judge Taranto. And when we got to the end of it, he said, "You didn't say anything about your work on the court." So here we go. From the many cases we worked on together, that's it, to the cat stickers that you all earned, to that one quick glass of wine at the end of the day, to our girls' beach trips, to Flag Day, to getting to share in your weddings, to our crab feasts, our pumpkin patch trips, our workout challenges, our Christmas parties, where every year you come to Father Pollard's parish and you drive a 10-foot Christmas tree back to Washington, carrying it up 9 flights of stairs so that we can have a wonderful Christmas party every year. To our Halloween fun, where we quite literally changed the culture of the court together. You've been the very best part of this job for me, so thank you so much. To my assistant, Amanda, you've done so much more for me than just keep the trains running. You helped run the chambers, the court, and my busy life. Thank you so much. Oh, to Jen, you're one of the hardest working people I know. This job would not be nearly as crazy fun if you weren't part of it. You're more a sister to me than you are a coworker. Thank you for making my chambers always feel like family. To my mom and my brother, Bobby, only you know where we started. Boy, we didn't expect to be here. It was always just the three of us, along with our mom and pop. I am grateful for your love and support, and I'm really happy that you could both be here with me today. To my children, boy, I'm not going to do you justice. Billy, Bobby, Matthew, and Katie, the last time we were all at a ceremony like this was my investiture nearly 18 years ago. Billy, firstborn and ever dutiful, was trying to put my robe on me, Bobby clinging to my leg, and Matthew just sat down in the well of the court looking at the audience with a lollipop. I don't know what, I think he was evaluating all of you, not the other way around. And Katie, well, I was pregnant with you. You were all here with me through every step of this journey. You've literally grown up in this court. You've got judicial grandparents, you've got law clerk siblings. I mean, how many games of chess were played with Judge Bryson? I'm pretty sure they can beat you now, all of them. They've got Grandma Prost, who literally went to Grandparents' Day with Katie one year when my mom couldn't make it. We've had such a great time together in this job. I remember so many fun things. I don't know, Billy, if you remember the dot game. My kids always wanted to come to court, so I would bring them. And so the law clerks were in charge of them during court because the chances, at first I don't think they ever made it through more than one case, but the law clerks would come up with creative ideas like the dot game where you put the dots and connect them with lines. And I'd watch court and there would my children be sort of watching court and sort of playing with the law clerks. The job of a judge and a chief judge, it's a pretty good gig. I'm not going to lie. I got a great job. But being your mom is the most important and rewarding thing I will ever do. I couldn't be prouder of each of you. I can't believe the people you've grown up to be, and I'm so lucky that I got to share in that time. My husband, Matt, I figured I'd better do this one last. I've done pretty well up until now, but just in case I can't get through it, it's last, and then we'll just all go drink. In all things, you're my strength, you're my rock, you're my moral compass, and you're my best friend. Sorry, Bill. My 4 children and I have decided that my husband is a Spartan. He's a Spartan because a Spartan has great courage and self-discipline. Matt, you're the very best example of both. You've taught me time and again to always do what's right, even when it's hard. Thank you for making me a better person every single day. You'll forever be in my portrait with me. In the earrings and the cross that you gave me, the wedding band on my finger, and in the photograph with the family we built, and most importantly, in my heart. I'm grateful for your love and support. That I have a portrait is surreal, that it will eventually hang outside this courtroom between the portrait of 2 judges, Ray and Sharon, who are more family than friend, is simply a gift from God. Actually, this whole experience is. Thank you for sharing it with me.
Thank you to Judge Moore for those wonderful remarks, and thank you all for coming today. You are cordially invited to join the Chief at a reception in the Dolly Madison House and Courtyard immediately upon the conclusion of this special session. This reception is sponsored by the Federal Circuit Bar Association, court staff, volunteers, those with the red ribbons on their name tags will direct you to the reception as you exit the courtroom. Please be sure to take your belongings with you. Chief Judge Moore's clerks should remain in the courtroom to take a group picture. This special session is now adjourned.